Look, I think that Met fans need to understand something, because this is very, very strange for me, too. The New York Mets have a great history of pitching, an amazing history of pitching. Even from when I was able to watch the New York Mets, we were born and grew up with stories about Tom Seaver. We all remember, or again, we're told, about the great rotation of the mid-'80s. We all remember the hype and the hope of Generation K, even if it didn't work out. We all remember the 1-2 punch of Al Leiter and Mike Hampton, DeGrom and Harvey and Syndergaard. This Met rotation doesn't feature those names. But Tiki, as the Mets racked up another win last night, and credit to Pete Alonso and Luis Angel Acuna and the offense breaking out, which I do appreciate.
Yes, of course.
I am marveling at the awesomeness of this New York Met rotation. Tyler Miguel, again, with 6 innings, 0 earned runs. It's almost unfathomable how good this starting pitching staff has been as the Mets have opened up a 2-game lead in the wild card race.
You said that word so well. It just kind of excited me a little bit. Not just the pitching, but the unfathomable. You said it so nicely.
You like that, right?
I do like it a lot. But you're right about McGill. And McGill is so interesting because so many people wanted to hate on him for so much of his existence as a Met. He just can't get it done. He's faltering, can't get deep into games, etc. Send him down. But now that he's been back, is he pitching to 1.3 or something?
Yes.
ERA or
and
something
in his last 2 starts, 12 innings, 4 hits, 0 earned runs.
And that's, you know what? It's funny because you sit here all the time, Evan, and you talk about Pete Alonso better do this, and I don't know, J.D. Martinez better do this, and Brandon Nimmo better do this. And I always look at you like, dude, what are you? You're talking like a fan that has no effect. But Tyler McGill, he better have pitched well, and he has pitched well.
But you know what's so crazy,
and so, I can respond to the performance.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict, but I can respond when someone like Tyler responds the way that he has to the challenge that's right in front of him.
Well, I think what I have been stunned by, and I think every Met fan should admit this, is that top to bottom, whether it's Tyler McGill, whether it's David Peterson, who we all wanted to run out of town last season, almost forgot about him with the hip surgery this year, to Sean Manaea. You've been on the Mets text chat. Before Sean Manaea met Jesus and watched Chris Sale pitch, Sean Manaea was a guy who was just incredibly infuriating to watch with his inconsistencies. You mix that together with Luis Severino, who last year was a disaster for the Yankees. There were Met fans that thought coming into the year this was going to be one of the worst rotations they've ever seen. And yet, as we sit here with a week and a half to go in this season, the New York Mets rotation right now is carrying them to a wild card spot. And I find it to be scintillating to watch, amazing. What do you want?
Time to start asking a couple questions, Ev.
Questions about what?
How is it possible that Sean Manaea, David Peterson, get an effort like Tyler McGill, how can everybody be having career years? I mean, last year we had Luis Severino with the Yankees. He called himself the worst pitcher in baseball. Maybe it's time to start asking questions.
Yeah, what question do you want to ask, though? Like, what is that? What does that even freaking mean?
Look, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Perhaps just asking questions, asking the right questions. How could everybody in 1 year all have career years pitching-wise? Anything going on there?
Well, what the hell does that mean?
I'm just curious.
You got something to say?
I don't have anything to say. I think we should be asking questions.
Well, what's the question?
I'm very confused.
How did Luis Severino go from being the worst pitcher in baseball to consistent?
How did Sean Manaea become an ace like this? How did David Peterson become Mr. August into Mr. September? How all on the same rotation in the same year, perhaps in the same pitching staff where Edwin Diaz had some sticky stuff. I don't know. I'm just curious.
Oh, jeez. Oh, I see what you're doing.
I think that maybe it's just worth asking questions. How could it all come together in 1 year?
I see what you're doing here.
No, you don't only see what he's doing. He keeps saying asking questions, something that I may have asked a year ago about the Tampa Bay Rays. Are you raying the Mets right now?
I'm not raying the Mets. You asked right questions. I just think the same question should be asked. We are. We're 2 weeks left in the season, and now we know it's a whole sample size. How could this Met team with it's the pitching.
Check his hands.
I mean,
it's good.
I'm not saying in the hands. Who knows what's going on? But, a bunch of fourth starters putting together years like this?
You want to respond to this before I choke him?
All
I
at
have
once?
no idea what he's alluding to.
He's implying that something's unique or different about how the. Well, he's not saying it.
I'm not saying that.
He's learned from the Church of Evan because last year when I questioned the Tampa Bay Rays, I was very careful to never accuse.
How all in 1 year? How? Wow.
You know what sucks about this?
It's exactly the thought process that you had last year.
It's not
the Tampa Rays. It's exactly the same thing.
It is the same thought process, but as he's asking those questions, and I'm going to do my best because I'm a diehard Met fan who's thrilled.
You can answer them?
They're very tough to answer.
Huh.
I mean, how did Sean Manaea become an ace?
Yeah.
How did David Peterson go from sucking to we love him? How did Tyler McGill go from being a minor leaguer to, he hasn't allowed an earned run in, forever?
It's just incredible. Even some of the arms in the bullpen, it's been incredible.
You know what? I'm going to answer that question.
Okay.
Because it's fine that he wants to ask
Great
questions.
coaching.
Yeah. You know what? Yes. Jeremy Hefner. Answer that one.
There you
He's
go.
really good.
Except to the fact that Jeremy Hefner is not new to this Mets organization. In fact, he's a cockroach that survived multiple.
Okay.
So how all of a sudden now the light bulb goes
The
on?
pitching lab. The Mets have a pitching lab. They're fixing everybody in said pitching lab.
A lab, you say?
Yeah, pitching lab.
A lab.
No,
you
not
say.
that kind of lab.
How about the catchers that weren't here last year? Both are new.
Oh yeah. No, that's you know what? I forgot all the Yankee AAA numbers with Terenz catching. You're right.
So let me get this straight. We are here at SNY. They're having us. They catered a lunch for us. They are having us in this great
Thank you,
studio.
SNY. It's a beautiful
and
spot.
you decided to open this show up by asking questions on what was a great night for the Mets.
Yeah.
Mets won. Padres lost. Diamondbacks lost. Braves lost. Great night. You want to ask questions.
Why are you hating?
I'm not hating. I think it was a great night for Pete Alonso, great night for Luis Angel Acuna. I just think as we approach here, look, I mean, you can kind of start to pop the bubbly a little bit for the Mets. He's here with
We're
the
not
playoffs.
popping bubbly yet, but point taken.
It's fair to look it back now, as we know the season is almost over. This is not a month of hot pitching. This isn't one revelation with Sean Manaea.
Yeah.
How could everybody in
Okay.
1 year with the Stars? It's just very odd to not pitch to the back of your baseball
If you
card.
ask a question like that, Sean, you generally have an idea of what the answer is.
I don't.
It's like we had this conversation about the media yesterday.
I don't.
When they ask questions that are kind of leading down a path, you generally have a thought for what the answer is. So why don't you tell us what the answer is?
You see, Tiki, that's the thing with me. I still, to this day, have never taken my SATs. I wasn't a great scholar. I ask questions because I genuinely want the answers,
so
not that I have them.
I have to sort of oddly defend Sean. Sometimes you ask questions, you don't know the answer, but you're asking really good questions.
Well, yeah, I mean, could the answer simply be, hey, they happen to hit because of their pitching lab on all having career years at once? I find that hard.
Okay, so I'm going to try to take it one by one because there's 4 individual guys.
Okay.
David Peterson is a lefty. It takes him a while to develop. He's a late developer.
Oh, sure, you got one.
And they moved him up and down. They
Yeah.
had him as a starter. Then there was a reliever. He kind of had to find his role.
Also, hip surgery. So he's got a magic hip, a very fixed hip, and that's what's clicking for David Peterson. Okay, 1 for 1. Let me go to number 2. Tyler McGill. Humbled by having to travel on buses in AAA, and he's finally putting it together.
That was definitely it. All those trips to a Perkins in Toledo totally made Tyler McGill.
2 for 2. Let me get to number 3, okay? Luis Severino. Sean.
Worst pitcher in baseball this year.
Sean, you and I many years ago argued about DeGrom versus Severino as the best pitcher in baseball. We know that Luis Severino has this in him. So, yeah, it took 5 years, and it is odd that it took this long, but Severino's putting it all together. And as far as Sean Manaea is concerned, maybe watching Chris Sale pitch really did fix everything. But you know what else? And I'm sorry, and I don't give a damn what anyone thinks about this, because this is the dead honest truth. To my fellow Met fan, I actually appreciate you asking those questions.
Somebody had to.
I really do. It's something I've done before. You stole my gimmick from a year and a half ago. I respect that.
No gimmicks. I'm above that.
I would have said this if I lived in Tampa last year, and I'll say this today from SNY at a little after 2 o'clock with the Mets 2 games up in the National League wild card race. And I'll look into a camera. Which camera should I look into, Tiki?
The one that has the red light on it.
Okay, red light camera. And to the audience, I want you to hear me clearly. I don't care what the Mets are doing.
Amen.
You can tell me they're cheating, they're using sticky stuff, or they're using Jedi mind tricks to pitch well. You can give me any reason you want.
Wow, you sound convicted. I think you need a close-up, camera 3.
Yeah, close up, camera 3. OMG, the Mets are winning. OMG, sticky stuff, who cares? OMG, it doesn't matter. So I respect it. The Mets are doing something very unique with their rotation. But I will speak for most Met fans when I say, even if it came out many years from now that they did something that somehow made mediocre pitchers great, I'd be celebrating like the Astros still do for 2017. Thank you, sir.
I will say this. Speaking of sticky stuff, I did notice the rotation turned around after the Hawk Tua girl was there. So maybe she spit on all the balls.
And that was the other thing I was going to get to, too.
Come on, Tommy.
Even a purple blob didn't bounce a first pitch this year in that Met Mount.
The purple blob was there.
I'm just,
The blob was there. He has
glad-
his own seat. He maybe it is.
Maybe.
I denied it for months.
And if anything was going on, I would never suggest that anything's going on.
No, of course not.
If anything was going on, you shouldn't apologize for that. Anything that gets you to the end road. I think it's fair now on September the 18th to ask the questions.
Tiki, you want to respond to this? You're a very intellectual guy. Clearly, the Mets have a rotation that's pitching well over their skis. I think we all accept that. Do you have questions to ask?
You remember a couple of years ago, there was a guy on the other team, the New York Yankees. Career, it was a contract year.
Right.
Like sometimes in contract years, you just play better. Your attention to detail is greater. Your little things that you're doing are more refined. You just care. Just a slight bit more. I'm not saying you don't care regularly, but just a slight bit more. You put that little extra work in. You get little extra things to get healthy. You try just a little bit harder to hit, or to throw, or work on the fine details of a cutter or something.
I
like
was about
that.
to say sticky stuff.
Right. I almost did, but I didn't. Maybe because all of these guys are fighting for their existence
How about
as a
okay?
New York.
Hey,
That's definitely a T.
How about that? No, that's a great point.
Why is that not? Just because Pete Alonso hasn't had a great season in this contract year doesn't mean that everybody else is.
No, Tiki, hold on. He's right. Let me frame it more so that you have to answer this. Tyler McGill, Tiki's right, pitching for his baseball livelihood. David Peterson, after magical hip surgery, pitching for his baseball livelihood. Sean Manaea, he had a contract year last year,
get paid.
but he wants to get paid. He's 32 years old. He don't have that much time. Luis Severino was embarrassed by your franchise, embarrassed by them, and he has had that motivation all year long. What about the possibility that all of these arms, which have been truly amazing, and I appreciate it, what if they're all collectively fighting the world together to prove they're good? Does that answer your questions?
That could be one answer. Doesn't stop me from asking questions.
That's his way of saying he accepts that answer.
Yes, exactly.
Luis Severino was pitching for his pitching line
So
last year.
let me ask you this, Sean. The reason you're asking these questions is because there's no planet where the Mets could just be good, where the rotation collectively could all be good. Why are you asking this question?
Because on planet Earth, a bunch of fourth starters who have never had years like
See,
this
that's where you're
never
wrong.
are good.
They're not a bunch of fourth starters. That is completely unfair. Severino's not a fourth starter. Manaea's not a fourth starter.
You had no
Quintana's not a
problem
fourth
calling
starter.
Severino a fourth starter when he's a Yankee.
No. He was not a fourth starter with the Yankees.
He was last year.
He wasn't even a fourth starter with the Yankees. He was a ninth starter with the Yankees. He was horrific. But no, Loogie, so you're not really entirely telling the truth here. Those guys haven't been that in a while. Like for Severino, you got to go back 6 years. David Peterson and Tyler McGill had never proven. I can't tell you how many times I said on the Rico, I don't trust these guys. I don't trust these guys. I don't believe in these guys. Even Positive Tommy didn't believe in David Peterson and Tyler McGill. So we're talking about guys, while I may not be agreeing on how they're getting there, because I don't know how they're getting there. I don't want to ask questions. Sometimes when things are so good, you don't ask why she said yes. You're just like, she agreed to go out with me. Like, why am I going to psychoanalyze why? It's not my good looks. It's not my personality. But she said yes. If I psychoanalyzed why my wife agreed to go out on a second date with me, it would blow my brain out because I wouldn't be able to understand it. So sometimes when things are great, it's like Santa. Who has questions about how he gets to all those homes that quickly? He does it. He pulls it off. It's amazing.
He has lots of little L's everywhere.
Hey,
don't try to answer it.
Look,
that's the real reason. That's the real answer.
I think you guys have solved it. I asked a lot of questions today, and I think in the end, your answer to you have great catchers, a pitching lab, and a bunch of guys in career years turns the Mets staff into Glavine, Smoltz, and Maddox. But hey, you know what? We got to go with that.
Yeah, but all those guys have struggled. Quintana's struggled this year.
Well, Quintana's always up and down.
Severino has struggled. McGill has struggled. Manaea didn't get out of the gates. So what you're
this year in the off season, though, we'll roll back to cement rotation.
They're clutch. Just call them what it is. They're clutch. Okay. When they needed to be really good, they're really good.
And they have been.
Yeah, it is actually sort of remarkable. That
A-Rod was clutch, too, by the way.
No.
Yeah, and you had a day for him in a banner.
Giambi, very clutch.
Stop it.
Here's what I know, and this is the last month, okay? And the last month is you-know-what cutting time, right? It's a time to win. It's a time to make the playoffs. Here are some stats. I just want to read them to you.
Andy Pettit, Roger Clemens, also very clutch.
I see what you're doing. Sean Manaea's last 6 starts over the last month, 41 innings, which is a little short of 7 innings per start, 2-0, 2.63. David Peterson in his last 5 starts, 2-1, 2.51 ERA. Tyler McGill in his last 4 starts. You were trying to give those numbers, very accurate. 2-0, 1.69. Jose Quintana in his last 5 starts, 3-1, 2.40. Luis Severino's been the worst of the bunch. 5 starts, 2-0 with a 3.07 ERA. The Mets starting pitching staff is a combined 11-2 with a mid-2 ERA over the last month. And whether it's witchcraft, whether it's the catchers, whether it's contract year.
I don't think he actually said catchers. He said Haktua, but whatever.
Oh, yeah, Haktua or the catchers.
Power of positivity.
The truth is, it's working.
Yep.
And I, as a Met fan, I'll keep my eyes closed. If I was an Astros fan in 2017, I would have closed my eyes the entire postseason and opened them when I was at a parade. So, great questions. I don't give a rat's ass.
Agreed.
I accept that answer, and I wouldn't either. By the way, I didn't for many World Championships.
Toll-free number is 888-808-1019. We will get to your calls about this Met team, who is now tied for a second wild card spot. They're 2 games ahead of Atlanta, and they broke out offensively last night, and I'm not going to get nuts about Pete blooping one or hitting a home run that people want to call meaningless. They broke out offensively. The Mets scored a bunch of runs. Luis Angel Acuna had a day. But let's not be fooled, my fellow Met fans. They are here. They have a legitimate chance to make the postseason because their starting pitching is reminding us of, dare I say it, 1969, 1986, and 2015.